see the facility, get to meet Omar in person, see just get a glimpse, a snippet of what life would be like in Pittsburgh.
And let's bring in our Steelers reporter, Brooke Pryor. And Brooke, it's been exactly a month since Aaron Rodgers visited Pittsburgh. What can you tell us about the team's patience if Aaron Rodgers seems to be in no rush?
Well, Amina, Mike Tomlin has many sayings, but one is especially applicable in this situation: work while you wait. The Steelers are waiting on Aaron Rodgers, but they've been doing work in the background the entire time. That means hosting 4 different quarterbacks on top 30 visits. That's, of course, Louisville's Tyler Shuck. They hosted Colorado's Shedeur Sanders, Syracuse's Kyle McCord, and Ole Miss's Jackson Dart. And not only that, but they also met with a number of top quarterback prospects on the Pro Day circuit, at the Combine, at Senior Bowl, you name it. They have met with these quarterbacks because Mike Tomlin has been really clear about doing his due diligence on this quarterback class. It's all about the information gathering process. He's working while he's waiting. So despite this kind of public flirtation with Aaron Rodgers flirting right back with the Steelers, they're still going out, they're evaluating their options, and they are not locking down anyone, even Aaron Rodgers at this point.
Yeah, you talk about the Steelers working in the background. The NFL draft is just 6 days away. Pittsburgh owns the 21st pick. How much of Rodgers' indecision is influencing what the Steelers might do in the draft?
Well, it goes back to what Mike Tomlin told us at owners' meetings in Palm Beach, that this class is not devoid of talent. And when I asked him, how much of Aaron Rodgers' decision is impacting what you guys are going to do in the draft, he said, I don't know that I've thought about it this way. We are just evaluating all of our options. So that goes back to all of these meetings that they've hosted, all of these trips that they've taken to look at these quarterbacks, knowing that another Mike Tomlin phrase, have a hardcore plan, but be light on your feet. That's exactly how the Steelers are going to go into this draft, knowing that, hey, a guy like Shedeur Sanders, maybe he's taken in the top 5, maybe he goes to the Saints at 9, but if he slips below that, are they going to be able to take him there? Do they need to trade up? Is there another prospect that they like late in that round, or perhaps in the 3rd round, maybe trade back up into the 2nd round? This is a team that has done a lot of information gathering over the last couple of months, and they're prepared to make a decision even as Aaron Rodgers continues to not make one on his end.
Yeah, so it sounds like Aaron Rodgers, everyone's still waiting for him to make a decision, but the Steelers, they also have a backup plan as well. Brooke, thanks so much for the insight.
Let's continue the conversation with NFL analyst Mina Kimes. And Mina, we know what Mike Tomlin likes to say: control what you can control. Can't control Aaron Rodgers, so control what you're going to do here in the upcoming draft, which is exploring all options among prospects. What quarterback do you think Pittsburgh should go after?
Pittsburgh has always been my favorite destination for Shedeur Sanders. Whether or not he'll be available to them where they're picking, or they'd have to trade up, well, going back to the question about whether control, that might not be possible for them. But I do think just from a fit perspective, it makes sense. Sanders is tough. He's accurate. He throws over the middle of the field. He gives his wide receivers chances to make plays. We saw that in college with Travis Hunter, of course. He'll have excellent contested catch guys, and in DK Metcalf and George Pickens in Pittsburgh. And I think most importantly, he's pro-ready. To me, that's the single biggest difference between him and Jackson Dart. Dart has very impressive tools, but I view him as more of a developmental prospect, whereas Shedeur Sanders could come to Pittsburgh and start right away. And I have to think that's appealing to a team that doesn't quite want to wait and see what Aaron Rodgers is going to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Quarterback, though, was Pittsburgh's not only issue. They have 6 total picks. They have other needs. What other areas of the roster do you think the Steelers need to address in the draft with those 6 picks?
Yeah, a couple issues on the offense, maybe offensive tackle, running back certainly, but I'm going to focus on the other side of the ball. A need that jumps out to me, and something that I think was highlighted in the playoff loss: defensive tackle. They need depth on the defensive line. They need a run stuffer. Later in the draft, I think there are some really interesting names available. I'll single out one. Alfred Collins out of Texas is a true nose that I really like. Nose is a surprisingly strong position, by the way, in this draft. So I think they could look to add there. They could also look to add to the secondary. secondary. Brought in Darius Slay. I still think they need a nickel, potentially safety as well. But the defensive line is something that I would highlight as a primary need for the Pittsburgh Steelers and one that I expect them to address in the draft.
Yeah, they got to reload on that D-line. Larry Ogunjobi goes to the Bills. You got Cam Hayward turning 36 in May. It's something they definitely need to look at. All right.
Rodgers has been a hot topic this offseason as the free agent quarterback has yet to decide not only where he'll play next season, but if he'll play. Rodgers attempted to give some clarity to those questions when he appeared on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. Here's how the First Take crew responded.
But the reality is that looking at your quarterback room, if you have an opportunity to get Aaron Rodgers, regardless of how melancholy or moody he appears to be, the fact of the matter is you don't really have much of a choice because that's the situation you're in.
Steve A., one of the many things I love and admire about you is your mastery of the English language. But you just used the wrong word. You used the word melancholy to describe Aaron Rodgers. The word should be moribund. These stats are from Hembo. The last 2 years that he's been playing quarterback, how about this? He's 13-21 as a starter, and they've averaged 20 points a game.
The Mike T that I know knows his football and prides himself on being connected to understanding what symmetry and cohesiveness actually means. This man right here just threw all of that out of the window just to make sure you're going to use the word moribund when you associate yourself with Aaron Rodgers. You need to stop it, Mike T. There were some special circumstances in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and the stench wasn't just coming from the swamp area there. It was coming from the Jets organization.
NFL analyst Mina Kimes is back with us now as well. And Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. The Giants did hold that private workout in Boulder, Colorado for Shedeur Sanders back on Thursday. What are you hearing about how things went for the quarterback?
I'm told it did go well. I'm told the head coach Brian Dable likes to put those quarterbacks in private workouts in adverse situations, different situations, get them out of the comfort zone of a normal pro day setting. So all that was good. Otherwise, the Giants are not saying a thing about these workouts. They are incredibly tight-lipped right now, leading in to their third overall pick. Most executives and people I talk with other teams do expect that they go away from quarterback at number 3, especially with players like Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter potentially there. But could they get a quarterback later in the draft? Could they move up later in the first round? That seems to be the discussion point right now for the Giants.
Right. Joe Shane saying, of course, it's not mandatory that we take a quarterback. We'll see what they do at number 3. Mina, given what Jeremy just outlined, what makes most sense for you with the third overall pick to the Giants?
I think it's just what Jeremy said is being reported or rumored right now, which is that they go with one of those two players. Ideally, Travis Hunter, I think that would be the dream because the Giants are one of those teams where I truly believed he could play both ways and do so, I think, in a way that's really useful to them. But I don't think it would be a mistake to take Abdul Carter, the pass rusher out of Penn State, even though the Giants are already strong at pass rush with Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. Instantly, I think they would have an identity-defining unit, one of the best pass rushes in the league. They would find ways to get him on the field early. And also, it's a position that veterans who are play at a high level get paid so much money. We just saw that with Max Crosby and Myles Garrett's deals. If you have a player like Carter who is impactful, that's such a bargain. It creates so much value. So I don't think it would be a mistake for them to take him.
Okay, yeah, no way you can miss on that as well. I want to go back to Shedeur Sanders really quick because he is such an intriguing player for a lot of reasons, but mainly because I feel like he's been talked about taking anywhere from 2 to 21. And Mina, I know earlier you said you felt like the Steelers would be a good fit for him, and I know you've had so many conversations with people leading into the draft. Where do you think Shedeur falls to?
Ooh, you mentioned the Steelers could be an option. So if he falls out of the top 3, well, not falls, but if he doesn't go in the top 3, right now I don't see a natural home. It seems like the Saints, they could go quarterback, but they might not do it at number 9. They could go, say, cornerback or offensive line, defensive line. So where does that leave him? If I had to predict, I would say somebody trades up to get him. If he kind of slides into the teens or later in the first round. I know the Browns do have love for Shedeur Sanders. Probably not at number 2 overall at this point, but they like his sort of computer mind processing ability at the line of scrimmage. I'll say Browns for fun's sake. Browns or Giants move up to get him.
Okay, they move up to get him. Mina, what do you think? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, moving up into the end of the first round, it doesn't cost usually as much draft capital as we see from teams that make big jumps in the first. The example that comes to mind is the greatest success story, of course, is the Ravens going back in to get Lamar Jackson, who people forget wasn't even their first draft pick that year. But I will say Lamar Jackson was a bit the exception. Most of the time when that happens, it doesn't, certainly not to that extent, work out. So while I do think Jeremy's suggestion of the Browns makes sense, the Giants as well, if he does have Lamar Jackson-like success, having been traded back into, that would be unusual because that is usually not what happens when teams do that.
Interesting. So maybe going to a team that is picking 2 or 3, but not necessarily with the 2 or 3 overall pick. Okay, Mina, back to you now. What we know is that Cam Ward is probably going to go number 1 overall. Get the keys to the Titans franchise with that first overall pick, of course. What does Ward, though, need around him to set up for a positive year 1 in the NFL?
Yeah, they need more pass catchers. Cam Ward, I think he was gaming recently and was listing his best receivers in the NFL. And he was just listing all the Titans receivers, which as a Titans fan, I love because, you know, he is locked and loaded, ready to go. But it is not accurate. Outside of Calvin Ridley, I think there is a little bit of a deficit of talent on that team at the receiver position, and I do think it's something that they need to continue addressing in the draft. I would love for them to add a slot receiver. They also need, I think, a bigger possession guy too, but that's a position I think they should address. They did spend a lot in free agency on the offensive line, so they're more set there, fortunately, and I think that, to me, is the most encouraging thing for Cam Ward, that he's not walking into a shaky offensive line.
Yeah, whenever you have the number 1 overall pick, you have more needs than just quarterback, right? And so what are you hearing about Tennessee's options for the 7 other picks they have in the draft?
Yeah, so I expect edge rusher will be a priority. I know the coaching staff there, they would like to see for their defense some bigger bodies on the edge that can stop the run and rush the passer. They have a little bit of a deficit there, lost some pieces. They're good in the interior, but they need edge help. So I do expect at some point in day 2 or early day 3 for them to address it. And to Mina's point, they do need at least one playmaker on offense to make a difference. I feel like they're pretty well set at running back, but otherwise receiver or tight end, they could go there for
Okay, well, on the defensive side, the Titans do not have a player with a double-digit sack season on their roster currently right now. So they got to bolster a lot of holes, as we know, which is why they have the number 1 overall pick. Jeremy and Mina will both be on NFL Live at
Their fate. Ward's journey has taken him from FCS Incarnate Word to Washington State of the old Pac-12 to the U. He's a favorite to be the number 1 pick in next week's NFL draft. Shedeur Sanders also started in FCS, playing for his dad Dion at Jackson State before transferring to Colorado. With Sanders at QB, the Buffs garnered attention they hadn't seen since the 90s. Do they have what it takes to be a generational talent? Here's Ward and Sanders discussing just that back in January.
Generational is once every 100 years.
You could be generation. You could be generation.
You're not
No
doing
Super
the right
Bowl.
drill, man.
Pause the separation.
Yo, what his name in the paper, coach? That's the problem.
You could be
on the front side.
You could be generational with no Super Bowl.
I'm gonna be generational about 4, 5 and things, and I'm good. I'm out the league. I'm going home to my son and my daughter.
Oh, you're a quitter.
And let's bring in someone who knows about coaching generational talents like Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, their QB coach, Daryl Colbert Jr., founder of Select QB Athletics. And Daryl, that